Everybody. I don't know what week this is, week 7,000 of COVID-19, coronavirus, social isolation. But this week we have a special guest. I have Erin here from Erin Preston Productions, and we're going to talk about video and SEO. So I'm going to let Erin introduce herself and her company. I've known Erin for like 20 years or something. And so I'm excited that she's here to talk. Okay, Erin.
Yeah. Hi, I'm Erin Preston, and I have a video production business called Erin Preston Productions. And we work with growing businesses, nonprofits, foundations, startups, but try to work with just about anyone we possibly can. And most of our work, I would say, is promotional in nature. We do educational as well, a lot of things for fundraisers, and then just general like engagement for people wanting to get the word out about themselves.
Awesome. I just noticed you and I kind of match with our like dark and our blue, so we didn't plan on that.
Yeah.
Okay, so the first question I wanted to ask you, or actually, let me talk a little bit first about why video is good for SEO. So I did one of the very first posts we did was about blogging for SEO, and I was saying that one good way to get a blog is to create a video. And when you create a video, you can then transcribe it and use that in your blog, which is what I'm going to be doing with this, which you'll see. But also, so it's a good way to create verbal content for your site, because the words are what kind of attracts Google in that respect. But Google also has, as you've noticed, search results that are videos. So you can get, image search results, you can get website search results, but video search results are also huge. And depending on the search that someone makes, it might be that a video result comes higher than any other result. So that's why video is super important for SEO. And it's also great for social media. Facebook loves video. So making sure that you have a video plan with your inbound marketing is super important. And that's why we're talking about it today. So Erin, can you talk a little bit about how someone would take a video of themselves if they can't, for whatever reason, hire a company right now, or they know that they need to get something out there, but they don't know how to take a video of themselves?
Yeah, for sure. That was the first blog post I wrote for our website is, I think it's actually really beneficial if people do try to video themselves first, just to get also a feeling of what it's like to be filmed and in front of a camera. But one thing that people need to be really aware of is people can watch crappy visuals, they cannot listen to crappy audio. So you really want to be conscious of dogs barking. Is there a helicopter? Are you next to a refrigerator? Is a fan going? Is the heater, are you next to a blowing heater or air conditioning, something like that? But nowadays, a lot of us can just record ourselves directly from our computer. The blog post I wrote is actually how to do it with your phone, just because it gives you a little bit more mobility. You can try things out a little bit better. Right now I'm on a desktop, so I clearly don't want to be really like picking it up and moving it around necessarily. But just making sure you have some good lighting, right? And behind the computer is a window. I'm not too close to it, so I'm not blown out. But anytime the light source is behind you, then that you're gonna be backlit, so people can't see your face. And, I think if you're gonna take the time and effort to video yourself, show your face, unless you're trying to do something else. And yeah, like not having the camera coming up so much, from where you're really showing your chin. Maybe something more direct, or put it up a little bit higher and tilt it down. What else can I think of? But I think just nowadays, as far as content goes, people just love authenticity and hearing what someone actually has to say. And so I think that don't overthink it, record yourself. If you like it, just kind of let it go and put it out into the world.
And so do all the operating systems that you know of, sorry, I just shook the camera. Don't do that. You know, I know for Mac, I'm using, what is this? Oh yeah, right now we're using Zoom, but when I do them myself, I use Photo Booth, which is, you know, the sort of built-in app for Mac. Do you know of other ones that you can think of? I'll link to the post that you wrote about taking video with your phone, but in terms of doing it on a laptop or a desktop, do you recommend just using whatever's native to that operating system, or are there apps that you'd recommend using?
Yeah, or you can even just like this, Zoom, you can record yourself on Zoom. You can use QuickTime. I think most computers these days come with QuickTime. Yeah, otherwise, if you're doing it with your phone, you just straight up from the camera app. But yeah, QuickTime works really well. Again, Zoom. And then I don't know, maybe in Google, in one of like Google, what's that? The chat, I think you can also record yourself as well.
Google Hangouts, is that?
Google Hangouts, that's
okay.
Right.
Cool.
Yeah.
Didn't know that. Good to know. And so you kind of touched on this a little bit about, you know, what to talk about or kind of what the content should be. And you were saying that authenticity is really important. You know, what do you recommend that business owners or, you know, people who work for nonprofits or small organizations, you know, what should they be talking about right now? Like, does it really depend on their organization, or do you recommend that people have sort of our approach to COVID-19 video? I know I'm getting all those emails from people, you know, like, what we're doing about COVID-19. Like, what would you say that somebody even talks about right now? Like, if they can't be at their business right now, what should they be saying to people, do you think?
Ooh, that's a tricky question. I think it's really, you know, specific on what you want people to know specifically about your company or about your product, or about potentially events that have been canceled due to this and what they're doing about it. I've seen some really funny things on Zoom where like small companies are like passing something along, like you can edit it together. There was this one with like people passing their pets on to the next person, you know, so yeah. I think that people are getting kind of creative. You know, I didn't know much about TikTok and now I'm kind of obsessed with it, but you know, I think it's really about deciding what's the mood you want to share. For some people it's very serious, for some it's jovial, for some it's just like, hey, we're still here and this is what we're doing.
Okay.
Yeah. But I would actually ask maybe you that question, since you're, you know, doing so much, you're a marketing company. Like, if you were going to tell people if they were going to record themselves, what do you recommend?
Yeah, well, in a blog post we wrote actually several years ago about what to blog about, and this is, I think, applies to video as well. But we tell people to talk about, you know, they can talk about an event they went to, or in this case, maybe attended online or something they read. We tell them to talk about a problem that they solved. So a lot of times I'll be searching for an answer to a problem and I won't find it. And so I'll figure it out, you know, over time, and then I'll write a blog post about it, because it's like someone else wants to know this at some point, even if it's just, you know, one other person like me, you know, someone's going to want to know how to solve this problem. So that could be something that people could talk about in a video. trying to think of what the other things were in that blog post, but basically an event you went to, a problem you solved, something, you know, interesting that you read or watched. What else? Interviewing somebody. So, you know, interviewing another staff member, interviewing your founder, interviewing maybe someone who benefits from your services if you're a nonprofit, you know, doing some sort of outreach. And there's a lot of that kind of stuff happening right now with, you know, that's kind of what we're doing.
Yeah. Actually, I did try to start getting something going, but got a little bit stalled. But something I was starting to ask people, other small business owners or just people in general, is like, what is something that's kind of getting you up and going in the morning these days? Especially like 2 weeks ago, I feel like, it's not to say it's less heavy, but you know, it was just, there was, I think people were feeling quite heavy. So it's like, what are some of the things you're doing? And it was so interesting to see the responses. So I think some of it could just be like, what are people doing right now just to stay busy, stay positive? And if you are super busy, like, what are you doing once your work days ended to like still feel like you have some sort of normalcy and things like that?
Yeah, I really like that. Kind of what's keeping you going right now. That's good.
Yeah, like, is it a quote for one colleague, like she loves Zumbaing, so she, you know, has a Zumba, like an online Zumba class. And I'm very lucky and have this access to nature, like just right down the street. And there's this tree I like to go sit in. You know, when I walk my dog, for some reason, it just makes me happy. So I think that some of that too could be just content as a way to check in and say hi to people as well.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that's actually really important, that not all of your video or even a majority of it should be promotional, you know, not like buy my product or, you know, shop with us or whatever. That sharing who you actually are is really an important way to build trust and to connect with people. And I see that, you know, you see that on social media so much, like when people are just trying to sell their product, no one really wants to interact. But when you show who you are, and not try to fake it, but just, you know, talk about that tree that you love, or, you know, talk about the weird game you played with your kid or whatever it is, that can be a great way to connect with people. So I think that's a really important point.
Yeah.
And then I wanted to ask you, and this might be kind of a weird question, but are there any sort of misconceptions that people have about video for the web, or are there ways that video has changed over the years that people might not know unless they're sort of, you know, in internet marketing or in video? Are there like common questions that people have about it?
Well, I think that, you know, I think the stats are something like almost 80% of all internet traffic is video based now. So it's huge. I don't quote me on that, but I know it's high, and every year it only gets higher. And I think that, sure, there's absolutely a reason to work for a production company for multiple different reasons. Like the amount of time it's going to save, because some people try to make their own videos, and it takes time to, it just takes a lot of time. So, but I think that nowadays video is one of the things that just gets passed around. It's so shareable. I mean, now there is the concept of viral videos, but, you know, for me in the blog, like, or I sent out an email recently, and it was just a video of me talking and being like, here's some snippets, you know, like sometimes if you do it this way, like you can also just save time instead of writing something down. Like you said, we've done that for clients where we record them and then transcribe it and turn it into content. But it's also something you can just post on a blog with a few like lead in, sorry, my dog, lead in, just introducing the video. So I think that's also something that people can do as far as just getting something out quickly. Again, if you don't overthink it. If you're just like wanting to quickly connect with your friends, colleagues, clients, things like that. But I think that video, it's just like, in stats that we've also seen from marketing companies we work with, video almost always ranks higher than any other content.
Yeah, for sure.
Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I think so. Definitely. Just, you know, how much people consume video. I think like those of us who are, I'm just gonna say more old school, but that's not quite right. Like I like reading and maybe that's, you know, I'm just sort of old school like that. So sometimes I don't think about how much people are consuming video, but, you know, I see my kid who's almost 11 and then, you know, pretty much, like you said, 80% of people out there prefer video. And it didn't used to be that way. It was like an accessory, but not necessarily the main content. And I think now it's changing.
Yeah, and it is something that you can, if you're, you know, baking bread, you can still listen to it. It can be in the background. So it does have that visual and the audio component to it. And some people, you know, if it has the subtitles or something like that, then people can read it while they're doing something else, listening to something else. So I think it just has a lot of potential to just reach so many people. Yeah. Whether you like it just visually or auditory.
Right.
Is that the word I'm like?
Auditorily. Some sort of adverb. And then another question I had, what would you say are, from your perspective, and then I'll kind of talk about from my perspective, what would you say the biggest differences are between Vimeo and YouTube? And for people who don't know, which I think probably most people do, Vimeo and YouTube are both, you know, video or platforms where you can upload your videos to share or for people to watch. And so I know some people prefer one over the other, and I was wondering if you could just kind of talk to why you recommend one over the other, or why both are good, or what you think about them.
Yeah, so I prefer Vimeo over YouTube for, I think the quality is better. I feel like, I don't know. Oh my gosh, I hope this doesn't come out the wrong way, but I feel like people take themselves a little bit more seriously, might use Vimeo as well. Due to the quality and the content that you can find on there. However, YouTube, owned by Google, it's the second largest search engine. So it's probably beneficial to put things on both platforms. All the videos on our website are hosted through Vimeo. I just feel like it's easier to control too, as far as the branding on there and all the different things as well. However, YouTube is a very powerful search engine. So I think it's probably wise to use both. Again, it could just also depend on what you're using it for. I will say that that video I made recently for the blog, it was our 2-year anniversary. I hosted it on YouTube. And just from there, it got a bunch of likes. So, you know, it's like, but I feel like YouTube's a little bit like that. Like people are liking and commenting, where, and it's not to say it isn't like that on Vimeo at all, but it's like, I don't feel like you hear Vimeo stars, you know? Like,
right. Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, in addition to being one of the biggest search engines, it's also one of the fastest growing social networks. It's considering itself a social, social media like Facebook or Instagram or TikTok, or YouTube is. So I think from that perspective, it's really powerful to reach a lot of people. And then from a, like I said, from a search perspective, a lot of video will come up as search results, and Vimeo does come up, but it seems like YouTube, because Google wants to keep as much traffic for itself as it possibly can, and that's growing. Google continues to try to keep more and more traffic for itself. I'm not going to say for better or worse, because I think it's just for worse, but Google is keeping more traffic. So I think from an SEO perspective, having it definitely on YouTube. From a quality perspective, I do agree with you, obviously, that Vimeo is much prettier. It always looks better. And I guess, if say someone is not going to embed a video on their website, if they just want to like create something and then maybe post it to social media, would you encourage them to still do it on Vimeo too, like as well as YouTube and Facebook? Or do you think it's important to be everywhere?
Again, I think that it just depends what you're trying to do with the content. So one thing that is also great about YouTube is that you can do some editing to the video just right on that platform. So I would maybe start with YouTube. Just really also depends how much content you're really putting out there. Like, if you're only doing 1 to 5 videos and that's going on Vimeo, does that help? I don't know. Because all this stuff takes time, and these days people only have so much time. So and there are ways to change settings in the YouTube, so there's not all the ads and all the different things that can come, like what it scrolls back, or once the video's over, what it goes into next, and things like that. So I guess I would recommend probably starting with YouTube. I'm kind of old school and get a little stuck in the things that I like, and so I just use Vimeo more than YouTube. Yeah, but I don't know if that's I sometimes question if that's a good idea.
Yeah, but again, like the purpose is important. If you're trying to get a bunch of traffic, or if you're just trying to communicate a message to some people, or if you're just trying to put something pretty on your website, I guess it really all depends on what you're doing.
Well, and especially if you use Gmail for your email too, then you can put a link in your signature, but that means the video is at the bottom of the email, so you don't even have to go to YouTube. So it does have some of those things where then you just see the video right there in your email, you click on it, and you're still in your email. It hasn't taken you to YouTube and things like that. So that's also can be really helpful.
Oh, that's interesting. I might have to do that. Thought about that. Okay, well, so kind of in conclusion, or to wrap things up, what kind of video stuff do you offer? Or like, if I needed help with video, and I didn't want to do it myself, or I realized, as I have realized lately, just how time consuming and exhausting it can be to do it myself. What do you guys offer? Or what do you do for people? You mentioned it a little bit in the beginning, but if you could just kind of talk about what you do, that would be great.
Yeah, again, it's depending on the what it is you're really trying to do, and what audience you're speaking to, and what content we really think will hopefully capture their attention. Because I think what is great about video is it inspires people to take action. So how do we want to have people take action? Is that from you telling your personal story? Is it a really complex system? So let's use animation, because that's gonna be the best way to tell the story. And then sometimes, we recently did a video where they're involved in travel, and as much as we would love to travel to 20 different countries to get content, we were able to use stock footage with some text and voiceover and things like that. So really, we're also doing 2 online courses this year. A lot of people are noticing that they could, especially with what's recently happened too, instead of traveling around all the time, put everything online in a well-produced, thoughtful way. We just helped a couple guys do a video for a Shark Tank pitch. So again, we have a couple nonprofit fundraising videos that will be shown at fundraisers. So I feel like I'm just rambling, but again, it's kind of like, what's the goal? And then we figure out how we're going to get there. Okay. If that makes sense.
Yeah. Awesome.
One thing I didn't say earlier about the benefit of video too is I recently ran into a client and I said, how's it going with the video? And she's like, it's great. People watch the video and they book an appointment. And I was like, oh, like, good, it's working, So hopefully, again, coming back into that concept that hopefully we're really educating people about what they need to know, and hopefully inspiring people to take some sort of action, the action that the client really wants their clientele to take or share, because sometimes it's not all just about buying something. It's about advocacy and referrals and being like, hey, I saw this thing, maybe this would work out for you. It's not that every person that watches a video is going to become a client, but maybe that engagement helps also just spread the word.
Yeah.
But yeah, we've done so many different sorts of projects, and my background is in international development. So the very first video I ever did was for Catholic Relief Services in Ethiopia. We just worked for a health foundation in Guatemala. So, we love also really being able to tell the stories of people who are just having a positive impact in people's lives.
Yay.
Yay.
It's our favorite kind of people to work with.
Yes. Yeah.
Awesome.
And I think most people, hopefully, maybe I'm an optimist, are trying to have a positive impact in people's lives, and hopefully video can help spread that word.
Yeah.
The word for them.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Cool. So if someone wanted to contact you, what's the best way to contact you? And I'll put this in the blog too, but just for the video.
Yeah, just send me an email. It's contact@erinprestonproductions.com, or give me a call, 303-547-0555. I mean, anyway that you feel most comfortable. But yeah, I think that, and I would imagine marketing's like, it all just starts with a conversation, and then figure out what's going to work best. Because I think every project and every client is specific and unique in what they need.
Definitely.
Yeah. How many of your clients use video? Is that something you can answer?
You know, in one way or another, everybody, you know, whether
Okay.
it's like really kind of polished professional stuff or just really simple. I have a client right now who it's a nonprofit. One of their members is creating these great workout videos at home. She's just setting up her computer and like leading a workout from her house, and then we're posting it on YouTube for them. So, you know, super simple stuff, but pretty much everybody uses video.
Yeah.
I can't think of any client that we don't incorporate video somehow. And you know, for social media especially, it's super important to have video be part of that. And again, whether or not it's professional or not, ideally it's a mix, you know, of really nicely done professional stuff and then, you know, really kind of authentic, showing their world type of things. But yeah, everybody.
Cool. Well,
Yeah.
that's always good to hear.
Yeah.
Maybe now too, with they'll be creating even more.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Also, I forgot to mention the other day. Yeah, like my friend has the new iPhone, and she just like took a video and then chopped it all up just in her phone and posted it to Facebook. And I was like, I don't know, it took her like 10 minutes. I was really impressed.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So it's getting easier and easier. Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Well, is there anything else you wanted to say, or that people should know?
Let me see. I mean, I just think that one thing I do try to tell people is what's great about video too is that in some ways it's like cloning yourself. You know, you can get in front of a lot more people with video than you can just on your own on a day-to-day basis. And so I think that's something to think about. It's like,
I like that, cloning yourself.
Yeah. But sometimes hopefully, you know, if it does come from that authentic, you know, if it comes, you know, if you're being authentic, then I think people can really connect to that. Mm-hmm. or they won't, and that'll save everyone time too.
Right. That's a good point.
Yeah.
Cool.
Well, it's so nice to do this. It's so good to see you.
Yeah, good to see you too. Thank you so much.
Like it's been ages.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'm going to stop recording now. So
okay.
Thanks everybody for listening. Check out the blog and you'll see more information here.